Hi there. I'm so glad you're joining me for Get Smart, training on how to set realistic goals. So I am just going to get all set up so that we can go through the slides together. Okay. So again, this is called Get Smart, making your goals a reality. It is so important to set effective goals because it is exhausting to set the same goals season after season or year after year. Summer is coming to a close and we all have goals that we, like to set in the fall, but wouldn't it be nice to actually accomplish them this fall and not feel like you're on a hamster wheel doing the same goals over and over? So let's take a look at why a lot of goals fail. Okay, sometimes we really need to look at the trouble spots before we even start so that we can help set ourselves up for success. Okay, so a lot of times people set goals with an all or nothing approach, or they're very general. So someone might say, I'm never eating chocolate again. I'm never having carbs again. All right, raise your hand if you've ever set a goal like that. I know I have in my previous life, and I was never successful at doing that. Most people are not. Usually what happens is you start on a restriction and then binge cycle. So I know when I've said I'm never eating chocolate again, I usually last 2 days, and then by day 3 I'm like binging on chocolate. So again, that is a goal that usually does not work. A lot of times we set goals that aren't specific enough. We also set goals that are not truly connected with our intrinsic values. We're going to get to that on a later slide. And then goals that are too large, that don't have actionable steps, okay? Or there's no way to plan because they're just too big. Like that, I'm never eating chocolate again. That's a very large all or nothing goal. An example would be of something smaller would be, I'm only going to have chocolate in the afternoon. I'm going to have a preemptive cheat that I plan for, or something like that. Sometimes people try to rely on their motivation or willpower. So I don't know about you, but there are some days I'm really motivated and I have a lot of willpower, and then other days where it's just not there. Motivation and willpower really waxes and wanes. It's not consistent. So having a goal that relies on motivation isn't always a great strategy because there are just some days where we can't do that. A lot of times people give up too easily, where they actually have a goal that's set up very well, but they don't give it enough time. So an example would be if you're learning how to play the piano, okay, and you decide you're going to be consistent. You have a teacher who's your accountability person, and you're going to practice every day for 30 minutes. By day 5, you're not playing Bach or Mozart. You're still on scales and Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. So if you set yourself up that, that you're looking at your results before you've given time to effectively achieve your goals, you're just going to give up before you've gotten there. Okay, so if you stuck with it, maybe by 6 months, you are playing Mozart. I am not musically inclined, so I don't know how long it takes to learn how to play the piano, but it's certainly not 5 or 6 days. Again, failure to predict obstacles and going through a list like this and thinking, all right, I set this goal, but like what might get in my way and how can I think about that in advance to set myself up for success? And last but not least, many people have like limiting beliefs that hold themselves back. Okay, and those things are not necessarily true. I know for me, I have an identical twin sister who's a meditation teacher. She was always trying to get me to meditate, and I used to say, I can't meditate. I'm just not the kind of person that can meditate. I was holding myself back. I had a limiting belief that I could not meditate. And so when I tried, I wasn't successful. Once I decided to really give it a try, I set my first goal for 2 minutes. And guess what? I could meditate for 2 minutes. So again, we sometimes set ourselves up with thoughts that are not necessarily true. It's really important to have a why when you're setting goals. And that's because if we look at the list we just went over, we know that our motivation and willpower can wax and wane. So when we're not feeling motivated, we come back to that why. And when we think about our why, we want to think about things that are intrinsic motivations. So let's just go over extrinsic first. Extrinsic motivation are things that are external, excuse me, and we get our validation externally. So think about if you were going on a vacation with your extended family and you wanted to lose that last 5 or 10 pounds because you're going to be wearing a bathing suit in front of everybody. That's like realistic. A lot of us might feel that way sometimes, but you're getting extrinsic motivation because you're getting compliments for them, or you want family members to notice how you look in that bathing suit. That's extrinsic validation or coming from the outside. Now, a lot of goals have both extrinsic and intrinsic, but we want our internal motivation, our intrinsic motivation, to be bigger, okay, and have a deeper connection with that. So some examples might be, I want to lower my resting heart rate to improve my cardiovascular health. Maybe I have family members who have a history of heart attacks or other cardiovascular disease, and I really want to try to prevent that. That would be intrinsic motivation for me. I want to live long enough to see my grandchildren, so I want to improve my cardiovascular health. Okay, I want to be prepared for my trek adventure. I have 2 sisters that are training for a trek through Nepal for 16 days. They cannot rely on an extrinsic motivation of people saying like, good job. If they are not prepared for this trek, they will not have a good time. So they are intrinsically motivated to go to the gym, get on the stair climbers, and really spend time getting ready for this trip. Getting a better night's sleep will help me improve my memory and work productivity. So yes, if you improve your work productivity, you might get some extrinsic validation from people at work, but overall, you're going to feel good on the inside when your productivity increases. And by having a better memory, you're feeling more confident, you're getting better night's sleeps. So there is more intrinsic motivation to that than from the outside. Another really helpful strategy when you come up with that why that's connected to that intrinsic motivation is creating a mantra. Okay, so when our motivation waxes and wanes, we can lean on this mantra to help us increase that motivation. So I know for me, as the years go on and on, it's harder for me to get up in the morning to work out. I used to be a morning person and jump out of bed, but now not so much. So when I want to get up early, I have a mantra that says, nobody felt worse after they worked out. So sometimes I say it like 5 or 10 times, and I kind of have to convince myself, but I know if I get up and get my workout done, I'm only going to feel better. Okay, and that's motivating to me. I love this visual. Most people set goals like the ladder on the right. If you look at that long list we just went over a few slides ago about reasons goals fail, think about each one of those as a rung. Those reasons make it really hard for us to set appropriate goals that are realistic and even just get started. So you see that person not even able to reach that first rung. We actually hold ourselves back, okay, by setting those types of goals. Setting realistic goals with small steps allows us to get started, find success. Those successes build on each other, and we're able to climb that ladder towards our goals. So I just think this is a great visual. Take a good look at it. And you can be thinking about it when you're trying to set your goals. Like, how do I make sure I can get started? How do I find those wins? Okay, so I'm not that creative. And the reason why I said this is about getting smart is because we're going to talk about setting smart goals. Okay, so when we talk about setting smart goals, what we're really thinking about are goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So goals that are specific and narrow actually increase our effectiveness. So think about that rung on a ladder. If they're close together, they're very narrow and specific, we know that we can pile those up to reach success. We want goals that are measurable. We need to be able to track our progress. How will we know if we're making strides in reaching those goals if we don't track ourselves and hold ourselves accountable? We want goals that are attainable. When you're setting a goal, you need to think about, is this goal reasonable? For example, if you want to start going to the gym and you join a gym that's 30 minutes from your house, is it reasonable that you're going to make it to that gym a few times a week? Excuse me. If you have an hour commute plus your workout, probably not. Is it worthwhile to join a gym that's 10 minutes from home so that it ensures your success? Most likely. Is your goal relevant? Does it align with your values and your long-term objectives? This is where that intrinsic motivation comes in. We want to feel intrinsically connected to our goals so that it's relevant for our life and where we are and where we want to get to. We also want goals that are time-bound, and this hits on goals that are measurable as well, but it's good to put a realistic end date on a goal so that you're just not like out there flailing forever. And then we want to think about our daily timing and something called habit stacking. So when we're trying to reach a goal or even just create small habits, we are coming up with ways that we can habit stack. So we want to take habits that we already do, like let's say brushing our teeth. We do that without even thinking, and we want to think about ways to add on to that. So if I got a new medication from my doctor and I was really worried about remembering to take it, I might habit stack it with brushing my teeth. I'm going to put the pill bottle right next to my toothbrush because I know I brush my teeth 2 or 3 times a day without even thinking about it. So then I'm connecting taking medication with something that I already do. Okay, so an effective way to set a goal is to use this strategy that we'll go over now, and then I'll show you an example on the next page. We want to take a blank piece of paper and fold it into 4 columns. The first column is going to be our overall goal, okay? The second column, we're going to break that down into 2 to 3 sub-goals. And then in the third column, we're going to look at the action steps that we need to make those sub-goals happen. In the last column, we're going to take a minute to predict obstacles that might get in our way that we can think about from the get-go. So then we review. Let's look at our obstacles. Do we need to adjust our goal or any of our action steps based on those obstacles so that we can set ourselves up for success? Okay, so here's an example of what that looks like. I want to eat healthier this year so that I can lower my chances of becoming pre-diabetic. Okay, so there's some intrinsic motivation here. Maybe I have family members with a history of type 2 diabetes, and I want to try to eliminate becoming diabetic myself. So I want to eat healthier. The thing about eating healthier is that can mean different things to different people. It can also mean different things on a Monday versus a Wednesday to somebody. So we want to get more specific. Again, the more specific we can be, the better likelihood we have of reaching these goals. So to become more specific, we're going to break that goal down into 3 sub-goals, okay? So I will eat 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. I will use correct portion sizes, and I will try to limit my dessert to twice a week. Now, I want to point out the third sub-goal. We're getting rid of that all or nothing mentality by picking a few times a week to indulge in dessert, but not saying I'm never eating dessert again, because we know that that would not be realistic. All right, so let's look at those sub-goals and turn them into action steps. What do you actually need to do to make sure that you eat servings of fruits and vegetables and use portion sizes that are correct and limit your desserts to twice a week? What action steps do we need to take? I will spend time meal planning on Sundays by 4 p.m. to create a shopping list. I will print a portion guide to use as reference. I will cook 1 new recipe a week that includes a green vegetable. I will buy single serving desserts to have on Wednesdays and Fridays. And I will keep 2 to 3 bags of frozen vegetables in my freezer in case I run out of fresh produce. All right, so those are great action steps. And those break down the how am I going to eat healthier to prevent my chances of becoming pre-diabetic. But let's think of some obstacles that might get in the way, even of those action steps that I think make a lot of sense. All right, work gets really busy, and I'm worried that I won't have time to cook. I only like a few vegetables, and fruit can be expensive if not in season. All right, those are very realistic obstacles for people. So let's think about how do we need to adjust any of our action steps to preemptively deal with these obstacles. Okay, work does get busy. You might think you have time to cook at night, and then you get home 2 hours later, and then you planned, you're exhausted. You know, it's very easy to throw in the towel and say, I'm just going to Uber Eats and not stick to your plan. So what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen? Maybe I'm going to change one of my action steps to say, I will cook 1 new recipe a week that includes a green vegetable, and I will double the portions so that I can put 1 in the freezer. That way I know if I get back from work and I'm exhausted and it's late, I can just defrost something from the freezer that's already made, and I'm not going to be tempted to use Uber Eats. Okay, so that's a way to adjust an action step based on an obstacle. Yes, maybe I only like a few vegetables. Maybe I love broccoli and string beans, and I'm kind of iffy with the rest of them. Zucchini, eggplant, maybe not your favorite, but you know that you can eat something with broccoli. So maybe I'm going to say I will keep 2 to 3 bags of frozen vegetables in my freezer in case I run out of fresh produce, and I will always make sure there's a bag of broccoli. Okay, so out of the 2 to 3 bags of frozen vegetables, 1 will always be broccoli so that I know I'm covered and I have something I like. All right, so this is just an example of how to break down that goal into smaller actionable steps, predicting your obstacles, and revising. This can be used for any type of goal, not just about healthy eating, for movement, anything that you want to do, you can set up in this way. So let's talk about 3 ways to increase your chances of success when setting up goals. The first is you're much more likely to reach your goal if you're part of a culture where this is the social norm, okay? When you see people around you that are working or have mastered the same goals that you're doing, it makes you more likely to use that behavior. And a lot of times people use an accountability partner as part of this process. So what does that look like, okay? If you know you're meeting a friend for a walk, you're more likely to show up and get in those steps. Because do you really want to call your friend and say you're not coming? No. So you make sure you meet them. When I lived in New York, I was part of a running group with my very good friends. We would have a meeting time and place for our runs. I was much more likely to go if I knew I was meeting my running buddies than if I were just getting motivated to go running on my own. Okay. I'm now just joined a running group in Nashville. We run at 5:45 a.m. on Fridays. Is it my favorite time to run? No. Would I rather be in bed? Yes. Do I want to get that 6-mile run in? Yes. Do I go meet them? I do. So it just makes it easier. The same thing for, let's say, wanting to go for a healthy dinner. You know, if you are surrounded with people who love to go to sports bars and get chicken wings and nachos, you're more likely to be part of that social norm where that's what people order. If you're with friends who go to a restaurant and get a more balanced meal that might include a salad with their burger, then you're going to think that that is more normal and err towards that level, like that type of ordering. So thinking about who you surround yourself with, what that culture is like, and what those social norms are can make a really big difference. Okay. Using if-then statements can also make a big difference because let's be honest, life happens and things come up. Things don't go perfectly for anybody, but using this strategy and creating a plan for how to deal with if you get derailed makes a big difference. So it means you're using a statement that says, if this happens, then I will do this, okay? If I can't go to grocery shopping on Monday, then I'll use the emergency food I have in my freezer for dinner, okay? If I really want chocolate, then I will go for a 5-minute walk and decide if I still want it. You're just setting yourself up for thinking about those barriers that might come up and how you're going to deal with them, okay? And it's already like pre-predicted in your head, so you don't even have to make that decision in the moment. You know, if X happens, then you do Y. And it makes a really big difference to have those statements ready that you can tell yourself. And last but not least, using a consistency calendar makes a really big difference for people. It allows us to monitor your progress in real time, okay, and give you an idea of how successful you can even expect to be. This is a cutout of a electronic version that I give my clients. We write their goals down on the left, and then they mark off all the days that they were able to hit them. You know, if you're being 80 to 90% consistent with your goals, and the small steps that you need to reach your goals, you're going to get B+A results, okay? If you only put in 60%, consistency, then you're really going to get C and D results. But at least it lets you make the connection between what you are putting in and what you can expect, okay? And it allows us to have real conversations with ourselves or our accountability partners, with how we're doing. And maybe you need to go back if you're not getting the success you want and reflect on those barriers and think about any adjustments that you need to your goals. So that is the training that I have for you today. I am going to stop sharing my screen for a second so that I can just say thank you. And I hope this training was helpful. I hope it gave you a better idea of how to set up those realistic goals, because anybody can get smart and set themselves up for success. I hope I hear from you. I'd love to hear what strategies were most helpful to you and how you're doing on your goals, because you got this. And I know that you can be successful. So I hope you enjoyed the training and have a great night. I'm just going to stop recording. Give me 1 second. You're still with me? Okay.